Washington Post, you have changed since 1971. You went from exposing the government's secrets to parroting their war propaganda and giving a platform for sick pedophiles like John Podesta to spew their fact-free garbage. Upon exiting the theater, I couldn't help but reflect on the increasingly alarming times we find ourselves living in. Far before Donald Trump's presidency, which this film so obviously parallels, the Constitution's reduction to cheap toilet paper for the powers that be has already been taking effect. We've seen poison being approved by the FDA, crooked law enforcers getting away with murder, unconstitutional snooping by the NSA, and psychopathic warmongers in top government positions escaping justice. A contemporary truth that remained adhered within my skull as I watched the Post is the total death of diligent mainstream journalism like the kind portrayed in the film. Yes, we now live in a world where parroting the State Department's war propaganda is considered quality reporting, while outlets daring to provide an alternative perspective are treated as spies and subject to censorship. I'm telling you, George Orwell must be rolling in his grave as we speak. So in the summer of 1981, the Washington Post, a then local newspaper owned by Katharine Graham, is on the verge of going public. The editor-in-chief, Ben Bradlee, is aggravated at the prospect of losing out on a groundbreaking expose by the New York Times. Those two storylines intertwine when the New York Times starts publishing excerpts from stolen confidential government documents known as the Pentagon Papers, the contents of which reveal a history of US intrusion in Vietnamese affairs, as well as lies propagated to the American people by LBJ and Nixon's administrations about US exploits in Vietnam and the prospects of victory. With an injunction by the Nixon administration blocking the New York Times from publishing further documents, the Post tracks down the leaker and obtains a motherload. Hard deliberations about publishing them ensue, as doing so would mean an indictment under the Espionage Act and in turn a rollback of the Post's IPO. The Post's morals about the importance of press freedom, journalistic integrity, and protection of the Constitution's First Amendment are undoubtedly derivative, but besides Spielberg's confident direction and ace performances by the uber-talented cast elevating it, the screenplay by Liz Hanna and Josh Singer is engrossing and scrutinizes some notable ideas like media relations with higher authority and the press as a business. As denoted by Graham's contentious conversations with Bradlee, allegiances are put to the test by the prospect of publishing those papers. As the owner of the Washington Post, Katharine Graham shares an intimate friendship with Robert McNamara, the very Secretary of Defense who actually commissioned the Pentagon Papers and escalated the Vietnam War knowing it was an unwinnable battle. And Ben Bradlee, he himself a former comrade of JFK, has done his share of associating with powerful figures but is absolutely revolted by the obscene extent of brazen dishonesties that those documents expose. The business aspect puts viewers in the shoes of Graham as she congregates with investors and attorneys in charge of the company's initial public offering. A subsection of the Post's contract gives investors the right to rescind their deals in the wake of a company disaster within the week. And that puts Graham in quite a predicament, as publishing those incriminating Pentagon Papers following a government injunction would render her a convicted felon. Since felons are forbidden from broadcast licensure, the Post would lose its revenue-generating TV stations. Katharine Graham strongly argues to a horde of businessmen that quality journalism and profitability go hand in hand. That particular scene had me raising an eyebrow and reflecting on the inaccuracy of that statement in the present day. John Schwarz, writing for The Intercept, notes that impactful journalism that truly holds institutions of power accountable for their misdeeds is the antithesis of profitability, because it's time-consuming, costly, and unattractive to advertisers. Not only that, those in possession of wealth and power will take legal action and run you out of business if you lose, and simply drain your money even if you win, because legal costs are colossally expensive. As for the performances, I think it'll be a cold day in hell before the likes of Tom Hanks and Meryl Streep deliver a performance that is anything short of immaculate. As the ambitious editor of the Washington Post, Tom Hanks exhibits a charismatic mutinous charm. His restive tenacity and dedication to high ideals molded by a weary acceptance of the world's unpleasant nature. A place ridden with grand injustices that deserve unfiltered exposure to the public. And unsurprisingly, Meryl Streep brings it home. Katharine Graham undergoes a smooth transformation from apprehensive and hesitant to a strong, self-assured woman in her position. In one particular scene where Graham has to make the most important decision of her life, her subtle facial expressions ever so brilliantly capture a lifetime of emotions in one little package. Meryl Streep's interplay with Tom Hanks is especially noteworthy. As Owen Gleiberman of Variety magazine notes, both Bradlee and Graham have strong aspirations to make history and elevate the Washington Post's status, but have conflicting opinions on how to accomplish that goal. Those characters are on the same side, but their amity, their friendship, it's compellingly quarrelsome. Solidly written, crisply directed, and impeccably acted as the Post is, it most certainly does not reinstate my faith in the mainstream media. I've learned something following a few years of extensive research and simply observing behavior during eye-rolling political arguments. Regardless of the president's political party, disastrous domestic and foreign policy is always triumphant because both Democrats and Republicans are puppets of the establishment. The government fears an informed and united population and does everything in its power to ensure division, confusion, and blissful ignorance, most notably through the false left versus right paradigm. Establishment media outlets on both ends of the political spectrum do their part in perpetuating division and ignorance by feeding their loyalists half-truth mixed with lies in order to keep them pointing fingers at each other for everything that's wrong with the world. Given Hollywood's cozy relationship with the CIA, I wholeheartedly believe that it partakes in this divisive paradigm. So from a realistic perspective, the Post is nothing more than damage control for elite-run mainstream press, seeing how the American people's trust in their media is at an all-time low, and rightfully so. Keep the late king of American journalism, Robert Perry, in mind. He went after the Iran-Contra scandal and was deliberately ignored by Katharine Graham, who this film so vigorously glorifies. But if you can look past all the liberties taken with the story and the crooked agenda, then the Post's agreeable message and brilliant portrayal of assiduous journalism should inspire people to aspire for the truth and nothing but. Because in this day and age of technological advancement where information is accessible at your fingertips with the push of a button, ignorance is a choice. So I'm gonna give the Post an 8. So these are my thoughts on the Post. What did you think of the film? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you like what I do, give me a like, hit that big subscribe button, stay tuned, and I will see you on the next one.